Test, test, test. Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully this mic audio is way better than the last episode, in the first episode. I kind of have enough more spots to reduce the sound noise while having it close so you can hear everything. That doesn't matter. Just got better mic setup and hopefully it'll work. This episode we are watching Noah Baumbach's 2019 film Marriage Story, and I mentioned that I was going to talk about it last episode. Sort of to keep on with the theme of love, and yeah, and it's not necessarily a love movie. It's a movie about post-love, and sort of these people attempting to separate themselves and create their own lives, and kind of the process upon, I guess, not how they did it, but how an average American story might go upon. It'll make more sense when I explain the story. And I notice listening to the other ones, I ramble a lot about random things, so I'm gonna try to keep everything kind of organized. The film came out in 2019, released by Netflix, and it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor for Adam Driver, Best Actress for Scarlett Johansson, and that is another thing. Scarlett Johansson, I think this is one of her best roles, just because the I've never seen her do something so serious. I've seen her do like little things like Girl with the Pearl Earring, or look on Netflix, or not Netflix, on Wikipedia. The Prestige, Ghost in the Shell. I've seen her in the movie Her. She was great in Her. But I don't know. I associate her with the whole the action movies, and she wasn't. I don't know. She doesn't really do something as serious as this, like playing a mom. I think Noah Baumbach used her greatly. Same with Adam Driver. I haven't stuck with the whole Kylo Ren thing. It was hard to break that for me. And when I saw this, and I saw While We're Young, and then I saw what else? I saw Francis Ha. Jesus, yeah, he's just nutty. I should probably watch BlacKkKlansman, but yeah, I think he's great, and I think he's kind of established himself as an actor. But yeah, kind of getting into the story now. Charlie Barber, played by Adam Driver, is a successful theater director in New York City. His theater company is producing a play that stars his wife, Nicole, played by Scarlett Johansson, a former teen film actress. The couple is experiencing marital problems and sees a mediator, or like a marriage counselor, who suggests that they write what they like about each other down and say it to one another. But Nicole is too embarrassed to read hers aloud, and they decide to forgo the counseling. Nicole is offered a starring role in a television series pilot in Los Angeles, and she decides to leave the theater company and temporarily live with her mother in West Hollywood. Taking the couple's young son, Henry, he was great too. Charlie decides to stay in New York as the play is in the process of moving to Broadway. Despite the couple agreeing to split amicably and forgo lawyers, Nicole hires Nora Fanshawe, which this lady's questionable. Not that the actor or the character, but the actual lady. I don't really care for her. Nora, yeah, but the Nora character, she's a bitch. A family lawyer. Nicole tells Nora a full story of her relationship with Charlie and how she gradually felt neglected by him and how he rejects her ideas and desires. Nicole also reveals that she thinks Charlie slept with the stage manager of the theater company. Charlie flies out to Los Angeles to visit his family, revealing that he has won a MacArthur Fellowship. MacArthur Fellowship is the most prestigious theater award you can win in the United States, I'm pretty sure. And they just give a large sum of money to quote finance your creative endeavors, and so they just kind of give money to these kind of up and coming Broadway directors so that they can do their things. You know what I mean? Create great plays or whatever. And he's just won that, and he wants to go tell her. Charlie flies out to Los Angeles to visit his family, revealing that he has won the MacArthur Fellowship grant, but Nicole serves him his divorce papers. Charlie meets with Jay Murata, a brash and expensive lawyer who argues Charlie to fight dirty, but Charlie returns to New York without hiring him. He receives a call from Nora, who urges him to get a lawyer soon or risk losing custody of Henry. Charlie returns to Los Angeles and hires Bert Spitz, a empathetic and retired family lawyer who favors a civil and conciliatory approach. On Bert's counsel, Charlie rents an apartment in Los Angeles to be closer to his family and strengthens his custody case. Charlie wishes to avoid going back to court, so Bert arranges a meeting with Nora. Nora argues that Charlie refused to respect Nicole's wishes to move back to Los Angeles, and that Henry would prefer to stay with her mother rather than fly back and forth between coasts. Bert privately advises Charlie to drop his New York residency altogether, but a frustrated Charlie refuses and decides to fire him. Using the first payout of his MacArthur Fellowship grant, Charlie hires Jay on retainer. The case moves to court, where Nora and Jay argue aggressively on behalf of their clients and attempt to paint the other party in negative light. Nora highlights Charlie's past infidelity and emotional distance, while Jay exaggerates Nicole's drinking and habits on alcoholism and threatens criminal action for hacking into Charlie's emails. Meanwhile, Charlie and Nicole remain friendly out of the court and share time with Henry, who is increasingly annoyed with the back and forth. Disillusioned with the legal process, the couple decides to meet in a private away from the lawyers. A friendly discussion in Charlie's apartment devolves into a heated argument. Nicole claims that Charlie has now fully merged with his own selfishness, and Charlie punches a hole in the wall and says he wishes that she would die. He then breaks down in shame and apologizes. Nicole comforts him. An appointed expert evaluator monitors a night with Charlie and Henry, during which Charlie accidentally cuts himself. Soon after the couple agrees to relax their demands and reach an equal agreement to finalize the divorce, although Nora negotiates slightly better terms for Nicole against Nicole's wishes. A year later, Charlie's play has a successful Broadway run, when Nicole has a new boyfriend and is nominated for an Emmy Award for directing an episode on her show. Charlie informs Nicole that he has taken residency at UCLA and will be living in Los Angeles full-time to be closer with Henry. Later, he discovers Henry reading Nicole's list of things she likes about Charlie she wrote during the counseling. Henry asks Charlie to read it aloud to him. Charlie does, becoming emotional as Nicole watches from afar. That evening, after attending a Halloween party together, Nicole offers Charlie to take Henry home throughout the night. As Charlie walks out carrying a sleeping Henry, Nicole stops Charlie to tie his shoe for him. He thanks her and they part ways once more. Okay, where's my notes? Wow, it's a great film, and it's the ending of this marriage, the marriage between Nicole and Charlie, and they're attempting to be very civil about it in the beginning, and I think the whole purpose of the lawyer scene and bringing the lawyers in is so that they could learn. Because in the beginning they were just sort of resentful, and if you the girl that Charlie has cheated on, I forgot her name, but she's like the stage manager. She whispers to Charlie, and that upsets what is her name, Nicole, and they storm home. This is in the very beginning of the movie, and the entire time I'm thinking, ask her what's wrong. Just ask her, like she wants, like the way her body language is, she's asking you to ask her what's wrong. And any human, you just want, if you care about this other person, you want to make sure they're okay, and you would ask them if everything's okay, because you saw them react to you, and you're chasing after them. Of course, there's something wrong. And I was waiting for him to ask, and he never did. And at no points, every time they were together, I'm like, ask her if she's okay. And it wasn't until she met with Nora, the marriage counselor, or the marriage lawyer or family lawyer, whatever you want to call him, that she asks her, "Are you okay?" and she breaks down. It's like, I. It was the idea that they weren't talking to each other, and sort of the court put everything that they wanted to say in the worst terms possible, so that they're supposed to see unfiltered and like just raw, and because of that they grew from it, and at the end they're okay, although they're separate, they're happy to be together and happy to be this, you could say, disjointed family. um that's what I really like about the whole marriage, or the whole lawyers thing. And it also kind of talks about the whole lawyering process. Like, they say that he says it in there that criminal lawyers look for the best in you, and marriage lawyers look for the worst in you. And so it has a little subtle talk about that, and subtle talks about like the like theater, like pretentious theater versus like unpersonal Hollywood. It seemed to make theater like super personal, which it might be, and Hollywood not personal at all. Uh, it just seemed to exaggerate it, and I really like that because it took it to the extreme where it's like it was super pretentious when they were doing their little theater thing, and then in the film theater they're like, and in the TV production they're like, That's not how you hold a baby." And she's like, "How is a mother supposed to care for a baby unless I hold it by its neck?" Like, because there is no personality in TV. They're just like, "Oh, we have to get this scene, and we have until 3 p.m. for lunch." And it's like, that's it. They don't care. They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about creating a show that people are gonna watch, or that they know are gonna watch, and just get money from it. Just there's no personality in them. The the way the story, it's a simple, it's a stereotypical Baumbach film in which his writing and storytelling is amazing, and he has his own type of cinematic style. There's no denying that. It just seems to me that it's not necessarily that his films are bad or anything is bad about them. It's that if this story was written as a book or a theater play, it would work just as well. And you could have exercised the medium of film a lot more. Like, for example, Moritz Stories, great movie. Francis Ha, great movie. Those not only showed a great like story, great acting, great writing, but it also had a great like cinematography. And that's sort of what I was talking about the last two episodes, where there's attempting to do something that you want and attempting to do something what the audience wants, and sort of having that fine balance. And I felt like this one was more trying to win. Like, this one was attempting to get nominated for Academy Award. And it was a trying to win. You know what I mean? Or that's what I mean. Is what I'm trying to say. Um, which I'm not opposed to that. It's just that I personally I want to see personality inside of it. It's like I can watch this story anywhere. Like, I can watch anyone write this story, but if it's gonna be you, I want to see your film. Um, I think Baumbach is a great storyteller, and he's done a lot of stuff with Wes Anderson. Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Life Aquatic, and they're very similar. I like his writing because there's some things. Well, he must be a director. I don't know if he's entirely writing this, but things like, "Oh, I'm not married right now," and he says that to the girl that he's cheating on with, and there's little things like that. You have to be a good writer, and then, oh, that's about. So we've talked about a lot of movies, and we've talked about love, and I talked about how in love there's these huge long takes that they were good, but they weren't that significant. And I guess the whole point of some of the long takes was to let the actors sort of act out their roles unfiltered, like raw, and just see it. And he did that, right? Gaspar Noé did that decently, and it worked in a lot of scenes, like when he's screaming outside the apartment for his ex Electra. Um, which is funny because we were trying to draw similarities between the films. His play is called Electra, based off, and her name's Electra. Anyways, uh, and here I think of when she's with Nora. It's right when she like sits down, the camera's on her and it follows her going to the bathroom, and she talks to the bathroom, and then she sits down in front of the camera and she talks to the camera. And it was a super long take that just let the actor do what they do best. And I think that there's sort of a balance because that the actor is the most intricate moving part in a film production. It's still a moving part and it's still a tool, but it's the most detailed and most intricate. And it's sort of like, oh, I have to, there's a lot more things I have to articulate. And what I mean by articulate to an actor is like sort of like inputs. And you give these actor a bunch more inputs so you can have the output that you want. While a lighting person, you have a little bit of inputs that you give to them. They're just as significant. They're just as important as the camera or the sound or the costume, or it's just as important. It's just not as detailed or articulate. And I think that when you work with an actor and you're able to articulate well and then let them do what they do best to be able to take that information and to output it in the way that you want and in the way that they can do best, I really like that, if that makes any sense. And so these long takes sort of supported that. And especially like in when they're arguing and when he punches the wall, there was cuts, but you could tell they were one long takes and that they're probably taking time in between shots because that was very emotionally charged. And by the end, his eyes were like beating red, and Scarlett Johansson had like almost boogers coming out of her nose, and it was amazing. Just the passion and for the scene, and he does that a lot. And I saw that in the Marowitz stories too. I think he just really good at working with actors and, like I said, being able to articulate and get those inputs well so that they can process it very well. Because I just think of Adam Sandler, and it's like everyone knew. I think since Paul Thomas Andler, Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love. Ever since then, people knew Adam Sandler had something. It's just that he was either stuck to his adult baby roles or dad roles. And you see him do grown ups, and my favorite one is Mr. Deeds and things like that. And then in 2018 and 2019, he comes out with, or 2017, I think, the Moritz stories, and then 2019, Uncut Gems. And what I'm trying to say is that I think he knows good actors and he knows how to really work well with good actors. And then again, he's worked with Adam Driver in two other movies, and this is his first one with Scarlett Johansson. And I just think, yeah, he just works well, and he lets them do. Not only does he create a good story, but he lets them do what they're best at. Um, and even then, even though I'm kind of criticizing the style and letting the actors do them, there's a part when he goes, the Nicole's power's gone out, and Charlie decides to come over with the son to help her turn on the power, and she cuts her hair. It's a really nice scene, and as they're leaving, just a little, because you could have done one simple shot, like it shows Charlie and his son closing on one side, then it cuts to her, and then it closes, and then they're outside the gate. But it was like cut to his face, cut to her face, cut to his face, cut to her face, and then the door closes. I don't know, it's just the little details. You're able to extend that, and you know they sort of still have this little care for each other. Even after everything, it's still there, and it's sort of solidified when he reads the note, and she ties her shoe and things like that. But it's just the idea that although I don't think his cinematography is great, I think it's there's a type of auteurism to it because the Moritz stories look exactly the same, and he likes to have these wide shots where they're walking, sort of like it's the 1920s, 1930s films, 1910s, and it's super wide, and you're watching them walk, things like that. Um, I'm gonna run to the restroom. I'll give me 1 second. I'll finish this. Sorry about that, boys. Shit, holding that piss, so it's holding it too long. Had to go. And gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. What I was mentioning is that he has these super wide, full body shots where he has him walking like horizontally, and it's great because he uses it comedically in Warlord stories, like when the dad's chasing his son and things like that. So it's just a common trope, and I've seen it, and I think I've seen it in Francis Ha, and I think I've seen it in While We're Young, which, by the way, what's his name? Steve Carell, not Steve Carell. Well, let me find out his name. Ben Stiller. Yeah, and he works really well with Ben Stiller. Uh, it was great. Uh, 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 um. Oh, and I guess this is my last thing about his cinematography. I really loved what Hitchcock likes to teach is when you're attempting to tell a story, you don't want to reveal things, especially in a scary story at least, or a suspenseful story. Because I assume this is suspenseful because unlike the Love by Gasper No, where he just kind of reveals it very beginning, we know these people are divorcing. We just don't know when. Like we don't know how it's gonna go upon it. We're just like, okay, in the very first few minutes after he reads or there's a narration of him reading the note. We know they're getting divorced, and we're like, okay, so how is it going to happen? And that's the whole story. And we find out at the end how they recover from it. In the movie Love, sort of like, oh, we know they broke up. How are they broke up? Oh, that's how they broke up. And then, you know what I mean? It was just the suspense was drawn out. And with that being said, you don't really want to tell the viewer cinematically what's going to happen next. And that goes even to the minute, in which the camera shouldn't lead the character should lead the camera. And he does that a lot, and I really loved it because he'd have these long takes in which we're just following them, and we wouldn't know where they're going until they went there, and that's when the camera reacted. I don't know. You could see a lot of famous directors, even new directors now, will just like have the camera lead the character, and I hate that. It's just a little thing that's very like subtle. I just don't like it because we're following the character. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. That's it. Um, I really like this story, and I'm trying to think about little things that connect the two together, um, or at least in the mood for love. And I guess we're sort of following these characters. They're all love stories. Um, the beginning of the love, end of the love, or everything in between. I think Marriage Story is something that really hits close to home, at least in America, because since like the 1960s, like single motherhood and single parenthood has like skyrocketed, and even then I think in like 2016 for the first time ever single fathers have like surpassed single mothers, and so it's a very common thing nowadays, and it seems not until like the 90s, sort of 2000s, that it started to become normal and acceptable. And I think this is a story that's sort of highlighting the successful divorce story, because I know, like, you could flip a coin and anyone around you in America, like half them, their families aren't, they're a single parent family. And I'm like, and most of their stories aren't as great. It's usually like I had a bad dad and he's gone now, and now we just have our mom. Or it's like I had a bad mom and now I'm just with my dad. Or I had bad parents and I'm with my grandparents now. I've had those stories too. So I guess this short sort of show is sort of just to put people on the spot and sort of show that you can move past it, and that, well, then again, he's just sort of an American writer, and Americans really want good endings, and this ending wasn't good. It was very bittersweet, but it wasn't amazing. Or it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. And I think I'd prefer something a little bit more sad, something that's a little bit more based in reality. But I don't know. It was a great film. I really loved the film overall. Like to compare it to 1917, I would say it's better than Jojo Rabbit, better than 1917. And look at Best Motion Picture. Haven't watched The Irishman. Probably should watch that. But to compare it to Joker, Two Popes, I would say it's better than Joker and better than 1917. I'd recommend anyone watch it. I'm trying to think what else. I'm really trying to see if I can find any connections between the three films, but I can't. If I were to rate the film, I'd definitely give it an 8 out of 10 without hesitation. I think, and I'm going to say this over and over, I think this film is accessible to filmmakers who are good at writing. There's nothing really too intricate about what he did. You can take some things out. Like the court scene might be kind of hard to film if you don't have access to court, or some of like the lawyers' offices might be kind of hard to film. But everything else kind of took place in public areas or at a house. I really like that. Just the subtlety of it. That's American life. You know what I mean? I think that, yeah, just a slice of life kind of hits me closer, you know, or hits close to home with me better. And that's why I'm going to talk about Florida Project. I'm probably going to talk about it next, or I'm probably going to look for another love movie and talk about that next. But I don't know. 8 out of 10. To get to a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, it can't be happy. You have to make it terrible. And he would still have to learn something from it. Yeah, and better cinematography that shows me that you're in the movie. That's what I really like. But yeah. I don't know what movie I want to talk about next, but I know one's going to be Florida Project. So stay tuned for that. Let me know what you guys think. If I'm missing some things that I should talk about more, or if, I don't know. Even if my opinion's wrong, I don't care. Just tell me that my opinion's wrong. I just want to hear that my opinion's wrong and why it's wrong, to just spread my knowledge. And I've spread my knowledge in all parts of cinema. Because there might be some little part in the movie that you guys saw and you're like, that's why it's this sort of bittersweet ending, is because of this, that, and the other. And that if it was supposed to be anything else other, it'd be a worse movie. And I don't know what that is. What I'm saying, if you had that and you could express that to me, I would love to hear it. Just because I want to make my own films, and I've mentioned this. And just greater and deeper knowledge of cinema. With that being said, this is the internet's busiest film nerd. Bum 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 bum. So this is love. So this is love. Is this what makes love divine? That's might be Lady and the Tramp. I'm pretty sure it's Lady and the Tramp or Cinderella. I don't know. But I'm gonna look for another love movie. If not, Florida Project. Keep up. Comment, like, just let me know anything. I just want feedback on anything. With that being said, signing off. Thank you guys so much for watching. See ya.